It was midnight and you were sleeping soundly when suddenly you woke up to the sound of loud shouts echoing through the mansion. At first you thought you were dreaming, but the noise didn't stop, it only got louder. Your heart started pounding as you sat up in bed, looking around your dark room. Panic crept in when you noticed shadows moving outside your window. You quickly got up of bed and rushed to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to peek through. Your breath hitched as you saw several men dressed in black near the gates. They were armed and their movements were hurried and aggressive. These weren't Jungkook's men, you knew that much. Your hands started trembling. Who are they? You whispered to yourself, backing away from the window. You clutched your chest, trying to steady your breathing, but before you could think of what to do, your bedroom door burst open with a loud bang. You let out a small scream, spinning around to see Jungkook storming in. His face was hard, his jaw tightened, and his eyes filled with urgency. Get up, he barked, his voice sharp and commanding. Jungkook, what's happening? You asked, your voice shaky as you tried to process his sudden appearance and the chaos outside. There's no time to explain, just do as I say and get up now, he said, grabbing her arm. Your body froze for a moment, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. What do you mean? Who are those men? Why are they here? He let out a frustrated growl, pulling you to your feet. They are intruders, Swayan. They are after you. Me? You gasped, your eyes wide as you stared at him in disbelief. Why would they come after me? Jungkook's expression darkened. Because you are my wife, and because of what your father has done. Your legs felt weak and you stumbled slightly, forcing him to tighten his grip on your arm to steady you. My father? What are you talking about, Jungkook? This is your doing, isn't it? You accused, panic and anger mixing in your voice. He didn't answer. Instead, he dragged you towards the corner of the room where a hidden door blended into the wall. He pressed a button and the panel slid open to reveal a narrow dark hallway. Get inside, he ordered, pushing you forward. You resisted, pulling your arm away from him. No, you bought this on me. You said you hated me, so here it is. Let them take me if that's what you want. Jungkook's head snapped towards you, his eyes blazing with fury. Stop being stupid, Ryan. Do you think I would let them lay a finger on you? Whatever you think, this isn't the time for your tantrums. I don't understand. Why protect me now? You have made it clear how much you hate me. You have used me, degraded me, so why? Why now? Jungkook's eyes flickered with something you couldn't quite read. Anger, regret, fear. But before he could answer, you jerked away from him, trembling. No, no more lies. Let them come for me, Jungkook. It will finally be over. You'll get your revenge and I won't be a burden to you anymore. He stood there silent, his jaw clenched tight, but as you started to turn towards the door, he grabbed your arm with a force you hadn't expected, pulling you back to him. Don't even think about it. Let me go. You struggle against his grip, your anger rising as you pulled away. You want to destroy me. You have always wanted to destroy me. What better way than to let them take me? You'll get what you want. I'll be gone and you won't have to pretend anymore. No, Jungkook said sharply, his tone fierce as he took a step towards you. I won't let them touch you, not one scratch. You stared at him, disbelief flickering across your face. You are lying. You have always lied. Always used me. I haven't lied, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. His eyes were dark with something you hadn't seen before, desperation. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted revenge, yes, but I never wanted you to suffer, not like this. Before you could respond, there was a sudden crash outside the safe room. The sound of heavy footsteps approached and the doors shuddered with the force of something hitting it. The intruders had broken through. Jungkook, you gasped. But he was already moving, his expression hardening into something dangerous. Stay here, he ordered, his voice cold but his eyes softening just enough to show a flicker of fear. He didn't wait for you to respond before pulling the door open and stepping out into the hallway. You stayed frozen in the safe room, listening to the sounds outside. There were shouts, the sound of fighting, and then silence. For a moment your heart stopped. You didn't know whether to run or stay hidden. But one thought hit you hard. Jungkook was out there, risking his life to protect you. The man who said he hated you, who had been cold and cruel, was now fighting to keep you safe. Then you heard it, his voice shouting, followed by the sound of gunshots. Fear gripped you. You couldn't stay hidden anymore. Without thinking, you ran out to the safe room. Your feet pounded on the cold floor as you searched for him. Your heart was racing. Finally, you saw him in the hallway. He was surrounded by intruders, fighting them off. His shirt was covered in blood and his face showed pain, but his movements were strong and determined. He pushed one of the attackers back with so much force it shocked you. Get back! He yelled when he saw you, his voice rough. Another man lunged at him, but Jungkook fought back, sharp and precise. You saw his hand bleeding and his shirt was torn in several places, but he didn't stop. His only focus was to keep you safe. Why are you still here? I told you to stay hidden. He shouted, his voice rough and filled with urgency. I couldn't just. You started, but he cut you off with a furious glare. Go back to the safe room now. His voice boomed, but you stood your ground. The sight of his injuries froze you in place. His shirt was torn, blood smeared across his side, and his hand gripped a knife tightly. You are hurt, Jungkook. You can't do this alone. I don't care. This isn't about me. You need to stay alive, Ryan. Don't make this harder for me. Your heart clenched at the desperation in his voice, but you couldn't move. I can't leave you like this, not when you are like this. Tears spilling over your cheeks, his expression softened for a moment, but the fear and anger returned just as quickly. Stop being stubborn and go. I can't. His words cut off as the sound behind him made his body tense. It all happened in an instant. A man stepped out of the shadows, his gun raised, aimed directly at Jungkook. Your eyes widened in horror as the intruder's finger tightened on the trigger. Jungkook, you screamed, running towards him without thinking. Why stop? The sharp crack of a gunshot shattered the air. Time seemed to freeze as the bullet whizzed through the hallway. It wasn't until you felt the fiery, searing pain in your shoulder that you realized it had hit you. Your body staggered back, your hand instinctively clutching your shoulder as warm blood seeped through your fingers. A strangled gasp escaped your lips and your knees gave out. Ryan! Jungkook's voice cut through the noise, filled with panic and fear. His head turned quickly to you, his eyes wide and full of shock as he saw you falling to the ground. In a blink of an eye, he abandoned the intruder he had been fighting, throwing the man to the ground with brutal force before sprinting to your side. No, no, no. He choked out, sliding to his knees and catching you before you hit the floor. His hands hovered over you, unsure where to touch, before finally pressing against your wound, desperate to stem the blood. Why the hell did you come out? He yelled, his voice breaking with a mixture of anger and terror. I told you to stay hidden. Why didn't you listen to me? You couldn't speak, the pain stealing your voice. Your body shook as you looked up at him. His face was full of panic, unlike anything you had ever seen. He looked broken, his usual calm completely gone. Stay awake, Ryan. Stay with me. Don't you dare close your eyes. His fingers dug into your shoulder, applying pressure, but it was clear he was losing the battle against his rising fear. Blood coated his hands, his shirt, and even his face as he held you closer. Someone get a damn car ready. He roared towards the hallway, his voice booming with desperation. Your lips parted, trying to speak, but no words came out. The pain was overwhelming, and darkness tugged at the edge of your vision. Don't. Jungkook begged, his forehead pressing against yours as tears filled his eyes. Don't even think about giving up on me. You're stronger than this. You're stronger than me. You always have been. He scooped you into his arms, holding you as tightly as he could without hurting you further. He bolted down the hallway, his breath labored and frantic. Every step he took seemed to carry the weight of the world, his usually confident stride replaced by quick. You'll be fine, he muttered, almost as if trying to convince himself. You're going to be fine. I won't let anything happen to you. When he reached the front door, his men had already pulled up with the car. Jungkook didn't hesitate for a second. He wrenched the car door open and slid inside, cradling you in his lap, and the driver started the engine. Faster, he shouted, his voice a mixture of rage and desperation. His trembling hand brushed your hair out of your face, his bloodied fingers leaving faint streaks on your skin. Stay with me, Why? Just look at me, don't close your eyes. You blinked up at him, your vision hazy, but his face was clear. His usually cold, guarded expression was gone, replaced by something raw and vulnerable. You were scared. You murmured weakly. Of course I'm scared. How can I not be? You are everything to me, Ryan, and I have been too damn stupid to admit it. His arms tightened around you and his voice dropped to a whisper. Don't leave me, Ryan. I can't lose you. Your head lolled against his chest, his steady heartbeat the only thing keeping you grounded. The pain was unbearable. I'll be fine. He whispered faintly, but Jungkook shook his head furiously. Don't lie to me, just hold on. We are almost there. The hospital finally came into view and Jungkook didn't wait for the car to stop. He threw the door open and carried you inside, shouting for help. His voice echoed through the emergency room, raw and commanding. She has been shot, he yelled, his eyes wild and frantic as doctors rushed towards him. She's my wife, do whatever it takes, but save her, save her. Doctors tried to take you from his arms, but he refused to let go. No, I'm staying with her. He barked, his arm tightening around you. You need to let us help her. One of the doctors urged, but Jungkook shook his head violently, his voice breaking. You don't understand. She's all I have. Please don't let her die, he said. His eyes were filled with tears. Finally, one of the nurses managed to guide him back, promising they would be everything they could do. As the doors to the operation room closed, Jungkook stood there covered in blood. His body was trembling. He sank to his knees in the waiting room, his head in his hands as tears streamed down his face. Please, Ryan, don't leave me. I love you. I love you so much. Just come back to me. And for the first time in years, the strong, untouchable Jungkook prayed with every ounce of his being for a miracle. The hospital hallway was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and footsteps echoing in the distance. Jungkook sat on a hard plastic chair, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, his hands covered in your blood trembled as he ran through his hair. The image of you collapsing played over and over in his mind, your body hitting the floor, your hands slipping out of his, the blood spreading around you. His chest felt heavy and he couldn't breathe properly. Sir, let me help you, a nurse said softly, trying to clean his blooded hands. Don't touch me. Jungkook snapped. His voice was sharp, though his eyes looked broken. He wasn't angry at her. He was angry at himself. He couldn't protect you. Please just save her, he whispered so quietly it was almost a plea to no one. Time felt endless. The clock on the wall ticked slowly, every second dragging on like an hour. Jungkook didn't move, his eyes fixed on the double doors. Boss, you're hurt. You need to get looked at. I'm fine, Jungkook muttered, not bothering to look up. His torn shirt and bloody face didn't matter. Nothing did except you. Finally, the doors opened and Jungkook shot up from his seat. The doctors walked out, pulling his mask off. Jungkook's heart pounded in his chest. Is she alive? His voice cracked. The doctor nodded. She's stable. The bullet missed any major organ, but she lost a lot of blood. She's strong. She made it. Jungkook's knees almost buckled, and he gripped the back of the chair to steady himself. Relief washed over him. Can I see her? He asked quickly. She's unconscious, but you can go in for a bit, the doctor replied. Jungkook didn't wait. He rushed down the hallway to your room, pushing the door open. The sight of you lying on the hospital bed made his heart ache. You were pale, hooked up to machines, and so still. Jungkook approached slowly, afraid to touch you. His hand shook as he reached out and gently took your hand. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered, his thumb brushing over your knuckles. He sat beside you, watching the rise and fall of your chest. Each breath you took was a small piece of hope. He stayed silent, but his mind raced with everything he wanted to say. Thought I lost you. I have never been this scared in my life. Not for me, but for you. Jungkook lowered his head, pressing his forehead against your hand as tears finally spilled down his face. I don't deserve you. I hurt you so much. I pushed you away, but I swear I'll make it right. I'll protect you no matter what. The room was silent except for the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Jungkook didn't move, his hand holding yours tightly as if afraid to let go. After a while, he felt your fingers moving. Fine, he said softly, his voice was trembling. Your eyelids fluttered weakly and you let out a faint sound. It's me, I'm here. You're safe now, he said, leaning closer. Your eyes opened just a little, unfocused as you searched for him. Jungkook, you whispered weakly. Jungkook smiled, though tears still glistening in his eyes. Yeah, I'm right here. Are you okay? Jungkook let out a shaky laugh, brushing his thumb against your hand. Don't worry about me. You are the one who got shot, idiot. Why did you come in the middle? It could have been worse. Why did you put your life in danger for me? You looked up at him, though tears filled your eyes, your voice trembling as you whispered, I'm sorry. Jungkook stilled, his hand frozen where it held yours. Sorry, why are you apologizing? You swallowed hard, tears started spilling over as the words you had held back for so long finally escaped. Because I know what my father did to your family. I know you lost your brother and your mother because of him. You had every reason to hate me, every reason to seek revenge, and still, you protected me. Jungkook's jaw clenched, his brows furrowed, but he said nothing, letting you continue. I should have stayed away. I knew you were hurting, that I was just a reminder of everything you lost. But I couldn't help it, Jungkook. I fell in love with you, and even now, after everything, your voice cracked as you held onto his hand. Even now, I love you. If this revenge didn't exist, if all of this hadn't happened, would you have ever loved me for real? For a moment there was only silence. The weight of your question hung heavy in the air, and Jungkook looked at you like you had broken him. His lips parted but no words came out at first. His eyes filled with so much anguish, brimmed with tears. Then finally his voice broke through the quiet, low and trembling. Ryan, I do love you. I always have. Your breath hitched, your heart stopping for a moment as his words sank in. I told myself it was all for revenge. I thought if I used you, if I made you pay for what happened to my family, it would somehow take away the pain I have carried for so long, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't. His tears began to fall now, raw and unchecked. His shoulders were shaking. I have been lying to myself from the start. Every moment I spent with you, every time I looked at you, I felt myself falling deeper and I hated myself for it. I thought I could convince myself that I didn't care, that it was all a game, but it wasn't. None of it was. You stared at him, tears streaming down your face as your chest ached with the intensity of his words. Then why did you hurt me? Because I was a coward. I thought hating you would be easier than loving you. I thought it would stop me from caring about you, but it didn't. No matter how hard I tried to push you away, I couldn't. He dropped his forehead to yours. His tears were mixing with yours as his voice broke completely. I love you, Ryan. I have loved you from the start, and I hate myself for hurting you, for making you doubt how I feel. I don't deserve you, but I can't lose you. Not now, not ever. With the last of your strength, you reached up to touch his face, your fingers brushing against his tear-streaked cheek. I love you too, Jungkook. You whispered, your voice was soft but steady. Jungkook's face crumbled as he let out a shaky breath, his hand covering yours on his cheek as if he couldn't bear to let go. Then stay with me. Stay alive, please. I'll make this right. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Just don't leave me. You nodded vaguely, tears still falling as you whispered, I won't leave you. Jungkook leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to your forehead, his lips trembling. I love you and I'll protect you always. And as his arms tightened around you, holding you as if he could keep you safe with just his embrace, you knew, despite the chaos, despite the pain, you were exactly where you belonged.